The TSP is one of the most powerful wealth building tools enlisted service members have available to them. In fact, over 171,000 people have used the TSP to become millionaires. In this video, I'm going to talk about what the TSP is, why you should be paying attention to it, and what I wish I would have done whenever I first joined the Army at 18. The Thrift Savings Plan is a government-sponsored, defined contribution retirement account that federal employees and military members can use to save money for retirement. And really, all that big gobbledygook of acronyms means it is a special account that gets a very specific set of rules applied to it whenever it comes to taxes. So you have this account, which I kind of think of these as jars that you put money into. And so you have this special jar that you put money into. And then because it's in that jar, when you pull money out of it, Uncle Sam treats it a little bit differently than regular earned income. And so I'll talk about this in later videos, but there's basically two different types of TSP. So you have your traditional TSP as well as your Roth TSP. But the Thrift Savings Plan has very specific rules about when you can put money in, how much money you can put in, and when you can draw money from it without penalty. You can always pull money out of it, but because it gets special tax treatment, the government will actually give you a penalty if you withdraw money out of it early. Now, there's always exceptions and exemptions, but it gets a little bit complicated and it's very individual to your particular situation. But in general, this is money that goes into the account and then it stays there until you're ready for it in retirement at age 59 and a half. The reason why that's important is because it gets specific tax treatment that makes it easier for you to save, and it also makes it to where you're more likely to leave it there and let it grow. And that's the real power of the Thrift Savings Plan, or any retirement account for that matter. If you keep pulling money out of it or borrowing against it, it doesn't have a chance to grow. And that's really the magic of a retirement account and investing in general. The longer you leave it invested, the more time it has to compound and grow over time. And that's also why it's so important that you start looking at this right now. The sooner you get compounding started, the better. And this is one that was really difficult for me to realize later on, because whenever I first had my brief about the TSP, the only thing I remember hearing was, if you put money into this account, you can't use it until you're 60. And I was like, hey, bro, I don't know if you know how my paychecks are set up or how my finances are, but I need this money now. I felt like I couldn't afford to put money into that account. And honestly, I don't even know if I was going to live to 60. When you're 18, 60 feels like forever away. But I wish somebody would said instead, hey, if you put about 150 to 250 bucks a month in there and never put less in there, you'll be a millionaire by the time you're 60. That might have gotten my attention. And because of the way that the markets and everything have gone, my TSP would have been enormous if I would have just put 5 or 10% from the get-go. Here's the real power of the TSP. If you put just $200 a month into the TSP and never put less than that, by the time you're 60, if you start when you're 20, then you would earn a potential $1 million in there. Now, if you just wait 5 years, that number drops all the way down to $650,000. That's a huge difference. E1s have it easy when it comes to investing because the earlier you start, the better. And so when you're young, you have time on your side. And so that money can really compound and really grow. And it's a whole lot less work for you if you just get started early. What I suggest is to put enough in there to get started, 5%, 10%, and then bump it up by 1% every single paycheck. This is called the Save More Later program. There's a book called Nudge that talks about it. But the main thing that this is powerful for is it just gets you in the habit of continually increasing your savings rate over time. And if you do that, before long, you'll be putting 10, 15, 20, maybe even more into your TSP. And then that's just going to continue to compound over time. And if you don't think that you can afford to give up 5 or 10%, for the time being, let me reframe that and think about it like this. Can you live off of 95% of what you currently make? I bet you can. Could you live off of 90% of what you currently make? Probably. You might have to make some adjustments, but you really can't afford to wait, because that waiting to get started could be hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're missing out on. So you really want to take a look at this and get started right away. Let's talk about the investment options for the TSP. Now, the TSP, there's kind of two parts that you have to pay attention to. One, it's how much money you're putting in there, and that's actually set with your MyPay account. And that's what you decide how much and where it goes. So you have to decide whether or not you are putting a percentage into the TSP or not. And then you have to set it to where it's going either Roth or traditional or a combination of both. I do have an article on my website that talks about the benefits of Roth, and I'll do a video on it later. But if you have specific questions about Roth versus traditional, make sure and let me know, and I'll include those in those videos when I make them. Now, the key thing here is that you have to set the percentage of your paycheck that goes into the TSP. And you can set not only a percentage of your base pay, but you can also put a percentage of special pays, bonuses, and things like that. And that can be another way to boost the amount of money that you're putting into your TSP early on. If you don't know what you're going to do with your bonus, or if you are getting special pay that you weren't before, I would highly suggest putting part of it into your TSP, because that's kind of like found money. And if you don't put it towards something that you want to save for the future, you'll just find something to spend it on. Or at least that's been my experience. I'm really good at finding things to spend money on. The next step is that you have to actually log into tsp.gov and see what it's invested in. Now, for blended retirement service members, their TSP default is the life cycle funds. So that is much better than what the old TSP default was, which used to be the G fund. If you haven't ever logged into tsp.gov, you absolutely need to do that. And there's two main things that you want to do. One, you want to check and make sure that all your account information is correct and you have all your beneficiary designations up to date. Though that's really, really important. And if you have any changes to the TSP or something's wrong with your account, you want somebody to be able to contact you. And God forbid you pass away, you want to make sure that your money in your TSP goes to who you want it to go to. The second thing that you need to make sure that you're doing is looking at what it's invested in. Now, the TSP is a little bit wonky. At least at this point in time, you can't adjust what's whether your Roth is invested in this versus your traditional invested in this. So it's just everything in the TSP is invested the same way across the board. You have 5 main funds that make up the investment options inside of the TSP. And those are the C fund, the S fund, the I fund, the G fund, and the F fund. Now, with those, you also have the life cycle funds, and you have life cycle funds that range anywhere from the current 5-year increments all the way up to the life cycle income fund. Now, those are comprised of a combination of the 5 main funds. The main thing that you want to look at is to make sure that your TSP is actually invested in something that's going to grow. If it's in the old G fund default, it's probably not going to grow. The G fund literally just tracks government securities and it pretty much keeps up with inflation, but that's about it. It's not really going to grow. So if you want it to grow, you need to put it in something that grows, something that's actually invested. And that's something that we can talk about later. But if you don't know anything about the TSP and you don't know what any of those investment options are, you can just pick a life cycle fund that is closest to when you think you're going to retire. Now, I would highly suggest that this is sometime in your 60s because you can't withdraw this money anyway until you're 60 or above. I would highly suggest picking a life cycle fund that is closest to when you're going to turn your full retirement age, so 65 to 70. Now, this isn't a perfect solution for everybody, and for some people, they may want a little more aggressive or they may want a little more conservative. But this is one of those, if you just put it in the life cycle fund and you concentrate on getting more money into your TSP, you will be just fine. These are professionally managed funds and they do adjust over time. So you don't have to go in and do any rebalancing or any maintenance or anything like that. And they're low cost funds, so it's going to be an inexpensive way to invest for the future. Hey, real quick, if you're getting value out of this content, Do yourself a favor and hit subscribe. That way you'll get notified whenever I put out more for enlisted, by enlisted personal finance content. All right, back to it. Let's talk about the TSP match. For anyone that joined or opted into the blended retirement system, you have a match that you would get up to 5% of your base pay contributions. Now, what that means is, depending on how much money you're putting into the TSP, the government will put another certain percentage of that into your TSP. So once you hit 2 years in and you're fully vested and you're contributing at least 5% into the TSP, you'll get a match of 5% as well. So that's pretty awesome. It's literally like doubling your money instantly. And that is really, really powerful and another great way to get more money into your TSP early on. So you really want to take advantage of that match. I would highly suggest never putting less than 5% into the TSP at any point in time. And if you don't think you can afford to put more than 5% into the TSP to start, that's okay. I understand whenever you're first starting out, you might have some bills, you might have a family that you're providing for, and so putting more than 5% in might seem like a stretch, but you can't afford not to, especially when you're getting that match. That match is literally like doubling your money. And I would highly suggest that you utilize that to the fullest extent. The other thing is that if you are putting a lot more into the TSP, you don't want to max out your TSP before the end of the year. Because if you do, you will miss out on your match, or you could miss out on your match for the last couple months. So you want to make sure that you are spreading your TSP contributions across the entire year. Now, for most of us enlisted service members, maxing out the TSP is going to take a large percentage of your money. And this is going to change every year. So just look up the annual contribution limits and that'll tell you about how much you want to put in there. If you're in the legacy retirement system, you don't get a match, but the TSP is still a fantastic way to build wealth. And it's actually what I've used most of my time in the military, even with other options available to me, because it's very simple. It comes out of my paycheck every single month. It's automatically invested and I don't have to worry about it. It just does its thing and then it continues to grow. It's a really fantastic tool, and I think it's something that every service member should be utilizing. The last thing that I want to talk about is I really just want to talk to the younger me. Now, if I could go back in time and talk to my younger self, I would tell that young man, hey, listen, start putting money into the TSP right now. You cannot afford to wait. If you can put 10, 15, 20% in and keep doing that until you can't do it any longer, you will not regret it. You have no idea how much the stock market is going to grow over time. And if you miss out on it, you will regret it. I promise you. But if you take advantage of it right now and you start putting money in there and never put less than what you're putting in now, you will eventually wake up and realize you've got a whole big chunk of cash waiting for you. And that's going to create so much confidence and feeling of stability that it will give you the ability to go and do whatever it is that you want to do. You won't ever feel like you're stuck in the military. You won't ever feel like you just are getting nowhere. You're going to get to see that grow over time. And over time, it is going to become effortless. You'll just see it grow and eventually it will start making more money than you do. So you can't afford to wait. Get started and get investing right now. All right, so to recap, the TSP is a powerful wealth building tool that people have literally become millionaires using. It is a great benefit, it's low cost, and it just automatically works with what you're already doing. I think that it is a very underutilized benefit, and a lot of service members could be building a lot more wealth if they would just make a few adjustments and start stuffing a little bit more money into their TSP. In order to get started with the TSP, you have to do two things. You have to start your contributions through MyPay to put a percentage of your paycheck and or a percentage of your bonuses and special pays into the TSP. The second step is to go to tsp.gov and log in and make sure that it's invested the way that you want it, and make sure that your account information is all correct along with your beneficiary designations. There are 5 funds that are in the TSP: the C, the S, the I, the F, and the G fund, and the life cycle funds that are comprised of a combination of those 5 main funds. You also have the option to choose between traditional or Roth contributions. And for most enlisted service members, we're probably in the lowest tax brackets of our entire lifetime. So doing Roth probably makes sense for most enlisted service members. However, if you have a spouse that works, you have additional income, it may not make sense to do the Roth contributions. But that is a whole nother topic all unto itself. The TSP match is also a very powerful tool for blended retirement system service members. If you are in the blended retirement system, you need to make sure that you're getting the full benefit of your match. It's literally like doubling your money instantly every single month. Pretty cool. And finally, I'll just leave you with this. I really wish that I had watched this video when I was 18 and I would have gotten started with my TSP. I missed out on so much compounding interest. I missed out on so much wealth building ability, and I really, really regret it. I wish that somebody back then would have shook me and said, hey, ding-a-ling, like, get investing in your TSP. But they didn't, and I figured it out later. But you can be smart, and you can take experience secondhand and get started right now. And last but not least, if you're getting value from this content, make sure to subscribe so that you get notified whenever I put out more for enlisted, by enlisted personal finance content. Now check out one of my other videos that'll make this even more powerful for your wealth building journey.